be easy to stop looking back and start looking towards the future. But the other thing we have to do in growing spiritually is we have to have a determination to say, I'm not going to look back. I am going to look towards the future. I have to have that determination to stick to my devotion. I have to have that determination to stick to my direction, right? I have to have that determination not to look back. Got it? All right. No sprinter has ever won a race looking backward.
That's right.
Nor has any sprinter ever run a race. At the first hit of adversity, they fall. Okay? So, we have to be determined that we are going to run this race. Now, here's the key. What do you think the next thing we must do for our spiritual growth is? It's the next one. Give you a hint. Starts with a D. Drive?
Oh, it was determination. Right?
Drive and determination, I say, is the same.
Oh, it's a new D?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's a new D. What do you think the new D is? Think about it. We haven't talked about this.
Direction.
We said direction. Come on, man. See? Fail the test. You're going to fail the test.
Give us a hint.
It starts with a D.
What's the next
Ends
one?
with the.
Huh?
Ends with the.
E.
I'm involved.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not. Come on. Starts with a D. Think about it. We said dissatisfaction. We
Yeah.
said devotion. We said direction. We said determination. What are we missing? Huh? Dissatisfaction, devotion, direction, determination. What are we missing? You can't just say D, 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 D. All of them are D, D, D. Don't give it to us. I can't spend too much time on this now. We ain't gonna be here all day. Seriously?
Can you skip this?
No, I can't. All right. Let's look at it this way. We said that determination is the act of deciding definitely and firmly, a firm or fixed intention to achieve a desired end, right? Mm-hmm. All right. Let me tell y'all a little story. Back in the day, I used to have this, we're going to get the word. I'm trying to give y'all some clues or some hints.
I think I have.
Back in the day, I used to have this thing at my job. I can't remember the name of it, but it was some kind of diet that we used to do, right? Mm-hmm. And this diet we used to do, Caleb hated it because it wasn't a real diet. I could eat whatever I want. I could eat whenever I want. The only rules I had was when I ate, I had to eat slow, right? It's a diet of portion control. So what we would have to do is whenever we took a bite of our food, we'd have to chew it for 2 minutes before we could swallow it. Okay? That's a long time. Listen. Truth be told, when you eating, you don't really pay attention to it, but 2 minutes is a long time to chew on the same thing. 2 minutes we would have to chew before we could swallow it. Then when we swallow it, we have to wait, like I think it was 2 or 3 minutes before we could take our next bite. Right? The goal of the diet was to do portion control. In other words, if we don't eat fast, eventually the signal will get to our brain that we're no longer hungry, and we'll find out that we haven't eaten as much. Right? And so I would do this religiously. We go to a restaurant, I would eat very slowly. It would irritate Caleb. Oh, it would just drive him nuts. Because he just wanted, why don't you just eat it? Right? But as long as I stayed to the rules, I could lose weight because I was doing portion control. Right? Now listen, don't go try this at home because y'all don't know all the rules. All right? But as long as I stayed to the rules, I would lose weight. So I went from the first level all the way to the last level, and I abided by all of the rules. And then they told me, now you've got all of the training you need to make sure that this diet sticks. You've been doing it long enough, so now you should know how to do it without any guidance from us. And so now you are on your own, right? And the first week I was on my own, I failed. Do you know why?
The decisions you made.
Wait, can we say the word now?
Yeah, but do you know why? Huh?
Diligent.
Boy, why y'all tap dancing all around the word? No,
No?
no.
Caleb.
What didn't I have? Come on, man, this is easy. I just gave y'all a slam dunk hit right now. Yeah, what didn't I have?
You might need to
I'm gonna have to give y'all this word, right? Because y'all
It's
tripping.
not decision.
No,
Are you sure it's a word with a D?
It begins with a D.
I'm doing the sermon. I know what word it is. Say again, Sister Sheila.
Divinely created.
No.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm gonna have to give it to you.
No, wait,
Oh.
wait. Defense?
It is one thing to be determined to do something. It is a whole other thing to have discipline to do it.
That's similar
Y'all all failed. Y'all all failed right now.
Specific hint.
It's one thing to be determined. It's a whole other thing to be disciplined. I was disciplined as long as every week these people were checking me and making sure that I was losing weight and making sure that I was doing what I was supposed to do. The minute they let me go was the minute that I said, oh, this just this one time. Right? And not follow the rules. In order to grow spiritually, we have to have discipline. You can be determined all day long, but if you don't have the discipline to follow the rules, you're going to fall. Believe it or not, when you run track, there are rules to running track. There are people who think that when you go run track, all you do is run. Well, guess what? There is a technique to running. There are certain rules to running particular races that you run. There is a certain way that you ought to carry yourself when you're running. There are rules. And so, to run this Christian race, you have to have discipline. Right? All right. So let's look at this word discipline. This word discipline as a noun is defined as the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior. Also, a branch of knowledge, typically one studied in higher education. So, your discipline for Cookie would be teaching or education. Sister Sheila, education. Yours, real estate. Is that fair? Real estate. Marlene, money. I don't know what kind of money, but Marlene, you do money, right? Yeah, there you go. Accounting. Can I say accounting? Those are your disciplines. Those are what you've been taught and trained to do. Well, guess what? You've also been taught and trained to be a Christian. Right? That's why you come to church. That's why you come to Bible study. That's why you study your Bible on your own, so that you can learn the lessons of how to be Christ-like. Right? And so, we have to have our own discipline. But now, here's the thing about discipline. When we talk about having discipline, honestly, what do we mean as far as this Christian race is concerned? When we're talking about having discipline, what do we mean? Discipline with what?
Obedience.
To what?
The rules. The settings.
What are the rules?
The how-tos and the why-nots.
Okay. What are the rules?
I just told you.
How to and why not ain't telling me nothing.
Yes,
To be
it is.
Christ-like. Being Christ-like.
How to be Christ-like?
Yeah.
And what's the other one? Why not?
Why not do what you want to do, opposed to doing what you're directed to do?
Okay. All right. So let's look at this for a minute. In order to be disciplined, we have to understand discipline itself. That makes sense? There are 3 types of discipline. You teachers should know this, right? I guess not. There are 3 types of discipline. One is preventive discipline. Another is supportive discipline. And then finally, corrective discipline. Got it? Preventive, supportive, corrective. As a parent, you do them all. Y'all understand that, right? All right, don't touch that outlet or you're going to get shocked, right? So in other words, to prevent them from doing that, as a parent, you went around and put them little things in the plugs so they wouldn't mess with that. That's preventive discipline, right? Supportive discipline is, listen, you did wrong, you wasn't supposed to do it, I'm going to help you. But I want you to know you did this wrong, and so on and so forth. I'm going to give you the real definitions here in a minute. And then corrective is, you did wrong, I'm going to spank you. Okay? All right. Now, you can't go around, Marlene, being a mature Christian, and going around and spanking Caleb or Talia because they're baby Christians, right? There's a certain way you have to do. Got me? So, when we look at preventive discipline in this Christian race, I'm going to give you the definition that the teachers use. Got it? Okay. Preventive discipline focuses on providing a motivation. Something that can grab the interest and divert someone from misbehaving. Right? What that essentially is Carter comes up to me and Carter wants to do something bad and I give him something else to divert his interest. It's real easy right now because Carter, his interest is like that. So it's real easy for it. But now, as we get older and we are more mature Christians, it kind of gets harder to change your interest. We get to the point where I'm going to do it, and I don't care what you say, and I don't care what anybody says. And listen, God, you just going to have to forgive me because I need to do this. Right? And God has given so many different things to divert your interest so that you won't misbehave and you say, please, I need to go ahead and do what I need to do. Right? God does preventive discipline with us. Now, so let's look at what Paul says here. I'm sorry, to finish off the definition. This preventive discipline involves showing compassion and concern to someone and calling attention to areas of improvement. Okay? All right, so let's look at Paul. Paul says in verse 15, let us therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded. Okay? Let's stop right there. I want y'all to keep thus minded in your notes. Put it at the end because we're going to come back to it. Okay? Y'all got it? I want y'all to write in the back of your notes, what is thus minded? Got it? All right. So, if we look at what Paul says, let us therefore, as many be perfect, be thus minded. In other words, we have our motivation. What our motivation is to be thus minded. When we look at thus minded, in this particular instance, we got to go back to verse 14. Verse 14 says, I press toward the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. So Paul is saying, let us be thus minded in pressing towards the mark. Right? Of the high calling. So last week we talked about what was the prize. The prize was the crown that we'll get. Not salvation, but the crown itself, right? And so Paul is saying we press towards that mark, so let us be thus minded. In other words, Paul is giving us that motivation that we'll need to remain disciplined to do what we need to do, right? He's giving us our prize at the end. He's saying that's what we're working toward. That is our motivation. And so our motivation should be running this perfect race to get to that prize, right? What is a perfect race?
One that you get.
I'm listening.
One that you keep on that you complete.
You can run a perfect race and not win. You can run a perfect race and not win. What is a perfect race?
Following all the rules.
Following all the rules. What are the rules to running a race?
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. What else?
Pacing.
Pacing, depending on which race you're running, right? What else?
Don't jump start.
Don't jump start. What else? Ooh, that's a good one. Don't jump start. I like that. Go ahead. What else?
Don't look back.
Don't look back. What else?
Finish.
That's all y'all got?
Keep running.
Finish the race.
Finish the race. Don't stop running, right? The bottom line is every race has rules. Now, all of those rules you guys just said are great and wonderful, and they work for our Christian race. Don't look back. Keep on running. Run to the finish line. Stay in your lane. Do not jump start. These are all rules that apply to this Christian race. These are all things that Paul is saying, if you keep your eye on the mark and you run the race by the rules, you can get to that finish line and you can win the prize. Right? That's preventive discipline. Paul says this, listen, let's go through it. There's some of you who ran track. Some of you did not. Every race is different. Right? The 100 meter, the 110 meter is straight all out. From start to finish, you're running at top speed. But guess what? When you run a quarter, you're not running at top speed all the time in the race. Some of the times you're going to run fast. Some of the times you're going to slow down and relax. Right? Matter of fact, when you're running hurdles, you're not running top speed at every hurdle. As a matter of fact, there's so many steps you know you're supposed to take between hurdles. And if you're not taking the right number of steps, it's going to throw everything off. And if it throws everything off, you end up hitting those hurdles, not clearing them. There are rules to every race, right? And we have to have the discipline to follow those rules. So that's that preventive discipline. Can I put it in context for you? In context, Paul says, let us run our race and let us make it to our mark. That's what he's saying. Our motivation is to be perfect in our race. Run it with precision to get to where we're trying to go. And I can understand. In some of this race, there are going to be times where we're going to be tempted to cheat. But in cheating, you get disqualified. There are going to be times where we want to slow down our pace. But if we're running 110, we can't slow down. There are going to be times where we're going to want to let our guard down and just coast on through the race. But here's the problem. Whenever we let our guard down and coast on through the race, guess who comes and makes us even slower? The enemy comes and makes us even slower. That's why we got to run with discipline. The race is not over, so why are we slowing down? We're not in the curve on this race, so why are we slowing down? You understand? We're running the 110. Why are we slowing down? We're not having the right amount of hurdles as we're running to jump the hurdle, and now we're finding ourselves tripped up because we're not doing everything we're supposed to do. Y'all got me? So Paul is saying we have to be prevented. In order for us to get to this goal, we have to run this race with our motivation of the goal in mind. Right? Preventive. Now, corrective. I'm switching on you. Corrective discipline, the definition says, corrective discipline involves with dealing with the problems directly. That means to stop the disruptive behavior, and it invokes consequences for misbehaving. Got it? In verse 15, Paul says, let us therefore, as many as be perfect, be thus minded. The B part of that verse says, and if in anything ye be otherwise minded, God shall reveal even this unto you. Right? So essentially, in this race, we are all like-minded. We are all trying to get to this one goal. If you're not focusing on the things that you need to do to run this race, Paul is saying God is going to reveal those things to you. That's that corrective discipline, and that you're not paying attention to all the things you need to do to run the race because I'm looking at everything else. You know what happens when we go into storms? What happens when we run into storms is we start focusing on that storm so much that we forget all about. Can I tell y'all my testimony? I hope my wife don't be mad at me. I had to take care of something yesterday, and I was extremely worried. I was so worried, Sister Sheila, that I woke up into my sleep. My wife don't know this part, but I woke up. I'm sweating, and I'm panicking, right? I immediately pray, because I know I'm supposed to pray. I know that part, right? So I immediately pray And I tell God, Lord, I need you. I need you right now. I need you to do this. I need you to take care of this. I can't have this on my plate, on my mind. I need it done. Right? And as soon as I finished that prayer, I went right back to worrying about how I'm going to get this done. Y'all got that? Y'all with me so far? Wife comes out of the bathroom, asks me what's wrong, and then I immediately go into, I got to do this and this and this, and I just can't take care of all this stuff, and it's just too much. I don't think I have the stuff I need to do it. Wife says, okay. She ain't supposed to be the calm one. I'm supposed to be the calm one. You understand that, right? She always panic. I said it. Anyway, so she goes and she does what she does, do her little research and finds out everything, all the stuff I need. And she says, well, you got this and you got this and you got this. Go do what you need to do. And I could swear that I did all of that earlier and it wasn't there. But when she did it, it was there. And I started thinking to myself, God, you trying to do something here, right? And all of a sudden, I'm trying to do this, and and my point in telling you this is, I'm caught in the middle of what I'm trying to do, and I'm not even paying attention to what God is doing, right? And so I'm so focused on my situation here that I've totally missed everything that's going on around me. And because I missed everything that's going on around me, I've gone into panic mode when in all actuality I had no reason to panic at all. After I finished, God says, okay, y'all gotta understand, God focuses on me with a sense of humor, right? After I finish, God says, every time, things like this happen and you go off the deep end. And every time I have to show you I'm God. And so he says, I didn't make you stupid. Why do you insist on being stupid? At some point, you got to learn how I work, especially how I work with you. He may not work that way with you, but how I work with you, you got to make sure that you understand. Listen, we've done this too many times for you to remain stupid. Come on. And I said, okay. And that's all I could say. Because it's the truth. Every time. Right? So God had that corrective discipline in that, listen, I'm tired of you acting like I'm not going to do for you when I always do for you. I'm tired of you pretending like I don't show up on time when I always show up on time. I'm tired of you pretending that I'm not paying attention to you when I always pay attention to you. And I always provide. I was sitting there in that bed thinking to myself, we have been in this building since May. I think I counted up 6 months, 7 months? May, June, July, September, October, November, December, January, February. 9 months. Right? Struggle every month to pay rent, but we have been here 9 months. And I've never received a note from that man saying, pay me my rent or you getting out. And I thought to myself, God, you are amazing. Because that man has every right. Listen, we paid rent last month on the 27th of January. For January's month rent. Y'all understand that, right? January's month rent was supposed to be paid on the 1st of January. We paid on the 27th. And that man said, the man sent me a text and he said, Mr. Brown, it's getting close to the end of the month. When you going to pay? I said, I'll be there Friday. He said, okay. I said, look at God. Because that man has every right. Right? Let's go. I'm going out to eat. But that is corrective discipline. God says, I've shown you this many times, and many times you're not getting it. So let me lay it down for you. You are wrong. I have to address this behavior right now. You are absolutely wrong in not paying attention to how often and how much I do for you. And you've been a Christian too long to sit here and pretend like you a baby. I expect, God expects Caleb or Talia to act this way. And I'm saying to Caleb and Talia might take offense and say, I ain't no babies, but I'm just saying. Right? He may expect that from them, but I've been in this game too long. That's not what he expects from you. Right? Y'all understand that, right? Okay, can we go on? I beat that one too long. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the next one is supportive discipline. Supportive discipline is assisting misbehaving people with self-control to help them get back on track. It involves showing interest in their work, providing positive feedback, and helping them in some difficulties. Okay? Now, I want you to turn your attention to verse 16. Paul says, nevertheless, whereto we have already attained, let us walk by the same rule, and let us mind the same thing. How better to be supportive, be a supportive discipline. You can't be any better a supportive disciplined person unless you're walking the same walk. Right? Sister Sheila, I don't know how old you are, but I know you're older than me. And so you've seen some things I haven't seen. Okay? But she's running the same Christian race. She's been running it longer. But she knows how I feel. She's able to help me with some of this Christian race because I haven't seen it before, but she has. And we've dealt with this, we're dealing with the same thing because we're running the same race. We have the same rules in our race. She knows those rules. I know those rules. She can support me. I use Sister Sheila because she's the oldest, but guess what? I can also use Caleb or Talia, even though they're baby. I keep saying y'all babies. Y'all gonna get mad at me? No. Even though they're younger than I am, they also can teach me or remind me of some things that I forgot or I didn't know. Right? But we're still running the same race. That's supportive discipline. Right? This supportive discipline, I am with you, you are with me. I know where you're going, I know what you're going through, and it's because I've gone through it. I can help you, you can help me, because we are running the same race. Right? So in spiritual growth, we need discipline. Preventive, corrective, supportive discipline, right? Supportive. We need to help other Christians out. We need to be there for one another. I'm reminded of Mitt Romney. Yeah, I'm going to be political for a minute. Now, Mitt Romney is Church of Latter-day Saints. Let it go. But here's the thing. Mitt Romney believes in God. And Mitt Romney did his thing with his decision, with his faith in mind. Right? And there are fellow Christians, or there are Christians in the same community in Congress that are beating him down because he chose to do right. You understand that? Here's the thing. This is the thing. When we are doing what God says do, we have to be supportive of one another. You understand that? And support even means, Sister Sheila, when you're wrong, I have to come and tell you. Right. I ain't got to come and tell you, you're going straight to hell, Sister Sheila. I ain't got to do that. But I have to come to you in love. Right. And say, Sister Sheila, you're wrong. Okay? Yeah. Supportive discipline. All right, let's move on. I'm almost done. So what does all this mean when it comes to discipline? All right? So I hope this works. I want to talk about a race. I want to draw your attention to a race called the 4x4 relay. All right? Now, in this race, you have 4 different runners. And each one of them have to run 110 meters each, right? Their own leg of the race. Okay? This race involves preventive discipline in that the prize is to win the race at the end, right? All right. All of them have the same common goal. Y'all understand that, right? But here's the kicker. All of them have the same common goal, but each one has to run their own race. Y'all understand that, right? All right. So, and each one has to run their own race, and they don't win until all of them have run their race and made it to the finish line. Y'all got that, right? Any one of them that don't run the race, guess what happens? Their whole team gets disqualified. Okay? The whole team gets disqualified. There are other rules. Everyone on the team, the finish line is the common goal of everyone in the team, and unless they do it together, there is no way they can win this race. Got it? This race has corrective discipline in that the rules must be followed. If you don't follow the rules, you will be disqualified before the race is complete. So what are the rules? The first rule is the stick must be passed at a certain time when you hand it off. Y'all notice that, I don't know if y'all paid attention to them running track, but when you see them run the 4x4 relay, they go and they mark a spot on the track, and then they go back to where they're supposed to start. And what that means is, by the time they get to this spot, they should have the baton in their hand. It should have been passed already. If they go past that line, they're disqualified. Okay? That's the first rule. Second rule is they must stay in their lane. Now you got this one lane with 2 people running in it at the same time at top speed, and they cannot veer off into another lane before they pass off that baton. Y'all got that? All right. And then the third rule is they must not drop the baton when they're handing it off to their teammates. If they drop the baton, they're disqualified. They have rules to running this race. Y'all understand that? What are our rules to running our race? We're going to get to it. Y'all remember I said thus-minded, right? Keep that in mind. Okay, we'll get to it. All right. This race has supportive discipline in that each team member has their part to play. But all of them have to run this one race to win the prize. Right? The entire team is cheering each other on as they run their separate legs. Y'all notice that when the first person hands off to the second person, once they hand it off, the first person is yelling, go, 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 go. He's cheering him on to make sure that he has that support to keep running as hard and as fast as he can. The support even goes in planning the race. Because I'm not going to put the guy who is the slowest runner on the last leg. I'm going to put him where he is able to excel. Right? So you have 4 different people. What? You have 4 different people, and each one has their specialty in the race. They all have their weakness, but each one has a specialty in the race. Right? I'm getting somewhere. Just hang with me. It means the guy that's running the fastest, he's usually the one chosen to run last because they need that extra kick to get to the finish line. The guy who has this quick start, but he has he wears down after a period of time, they put him in the front, in the first leg, because he starts off real quick. He might start getting slower as the race goes, But he starts off real quick. He gives them that jump they need. And here's the key. The strongest, let's put it this way. The legs that are most important in the 440 relay is leg 2 and 3. Let me explain why. I know they say that leg 4 is the most important, but leg 2 and 3, if they fail, leg 4, I don't care how fast you are, you ain't gonna catch them. Leg 2 and leg 3 are those guys who run. They don't get off real fast, but over the time of that race, they pick up speed. They get stronger as the race goes longer. And that's what you need in this race. Some people who can spell you for a little time while you're running. And we still keep making ground, right? This is what this race is about. All of this support so that we can all make it to the finish line. Right? All of this is discipline to run that race. Here's the deal. In a church setting, when we're talking about spiritual growth, there are some people here who pray and heaven gets the news and their prayers are answered. Right? But they can't teach worth nothing. Right? Not yet. Why would I put them as a mission person when they should be over the prayer team? You understand what I'm saying? Supportive discipline is putting us where we need to go. Right? There are some people who can sing till heaven get the news. And there are some people who can't hold a note. Why would I put them in the choir? We're all running this race, right? And we all have to do our part to get to the finish line. But let's look at this. And I'm almost done. All of this is discipline to run this race. What I'm trying to say is if we want to grow spiritually, we have to have the discipline of a racer. We have to obey the rules of the race. We have to keep our focus on the goals. We have to make the corrections within the race when things start to go off. We have to support one another as we run the race because we are all trying to reach the same goal. So I said, let us be, Paul says, let us be thus minded, right? And I told y'all to hold on to that, right?
Right.
What is thus minded for a Christian 4x4 relay? Number 1, to count what we were to gain as loss for Christ. Good? Ready? Number 2, to reckon all things loss or dung for the excellency of the knowledge of Christ. That's what Paul said, right? All the things he count as dung towards the excellency of Christ. In other words, the knowledge of Christ is more important than all these other things that I've accomplished. Y'all got that? All right. Number 3, to be willing to suffer the loss of all things to win him. When we're saying we're thus-minded in this Christian race, we have to be willing to lose everything in order to win Christ. Y'all remember the young ruler, Christ, he said, what do I need to do? I've given to the poor. I've done all the stuff I'm supposed to do. What else can I do? And Jesus said, go and sell everything. Then you're ready to follow me, right? We have to be willing to lose it all to gain him. You got it? Number 4, to desire to be found in him and in his righteousness and not in a man's own righteousness. I guess I should give you all these verses. Wow. Sorry. The one that y'all have for number 3 is Philippians 3 and 8. The one that I have for number 4 is Philippians 3:9. Okay, the other two, I ain't there yet. I don't have those. I didn't write those. Sorry. All right, y'all ready? Number 5, y'all ready for it? To know more of him in his person, righteousness, sufferings, death, and resurrection from the dead. I'll read it again. To know more of him in his person, righteousness. When I say him, y'all know I'm talking about Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't want that to get confused. To know more of him in his person, righteousness, sufferings, death, and resurrection from the dead. Philippians 3:10. Verse 6. Number 6. Y'all ready?
Mhm.
No.
Okay. You need me to read it again, Molly? Huh?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. To attain. Okay, I screwed up how I wrote this. Okay, so let me explain it because I messed up how I wrote it. To get to a point where you realize you haven't become what you should be, and acknowledge your imperfection. Y'all got that? To get to a point where you understand and know that you're not where you should be, and acknowledge your imperfection. Got it? That's Philippians 3:11 and 3:12. 11 and 12, I'm sorry. Got it?
Got it.
All right, and then number 7, forget what's behind and reach to those before. Forget what's behind and reach to what's before. Philippians 3:13. And then the last one, thus minded, to press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Jesus Christ. Got it?
Got it.
Philippians 3:14. The rules to our race, 1 through 8. This is what we're striving for. 1 through 8. Okay? If we run the race with this in mind, we will have spiritual growth. You know what I'm looking for? I want to be, listen, me and my wife we've talked about our different people in the Bible and our favorites, and Paul is hers. David is mine. And I said David is mine because David is so fallible. He's imperfect. He messes up time and time again. But God says he's a man after his own heart. And so I said David is mine. But I strive to be Paul. But Paul is such a Superman to me. He's a superhero. And I find it really hard to get to where he is. But then I hear Paul say, I have not attained. I haven't apprehended. I haven't made it where I should be. And I think, but Paul, you have all of this power. You have all of this. And yet Paul says, I'm not there. I pray spiritual growth for us is that we reach that level of Paul where we can do all manner of things and still say we're not where we need to be. Because the minute you start believing you're where you need to be, the Lord need to go ahead and take you because you ain't no more good. Y'all understand that, right? All right. God bless you.
Amen.
Let's not even